I think a lot of people have a misconception about the American dream. What I think it is actually a screen by the way you can see the world that empowers you to take actions that make your life better. But it all starts with purpose. I have to have a purpose greater than life itself. That's what creates fulfillment. That's what creates the sense of love and connection with other people, having a purpose.
Financial empowerment starts with a shift in perspective, and few understand this better than Mark Matson, an American entrepreneur, author, and innovator in financial education. Mark has dedicated his career to transforming the relationship people have with money. He's the creator of the American Dream Experience and the Matson Method, groundbreaking platforms that make academic investing principles accessible and empowering for everyday investors. Mark is also the author of several books, including the national bestseller, Experiencing the American Dream. Through his work, Mark inspires others to achieve financial well-being and live a life aligned with their values, all while challenging conventional wisdom about money and investing. Mark, thank you so much for joining me here on the 1 Mile, 1 Veteran podcast.
It's great to be with you, Danny.
Well, as our listeners begin tracking their walk with the Strava app, I'd like to jump right into our conversation because many of our audience members are service members and veterans who have fought for the American dream. And I'd like to know from your perspective, how would you define the American dream and what it represents?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a misconception about the American dream. You know, when I think about people and their relationship to the American dream, it falls into three kind of parties. One is there's the people that love the American dream. They feel like they're living the American dream. They feel like it's possible. They feel like it's alive. Then you have some people that are kind of, well, I don't know, maybe it is. I'm not sure if it's possible for me, but I'm hoping it would be. And then you actually, Danny, have some American dream haters. They actually think the American dream is based on greed, based on avarice, based on materialism, and some people think capitalism is evil. But I don't think it's any of those things. What I think it is actually a screen by the way you can see the world that empowers you to take actions that make your life better, based on the principles of self-responsibility, freedom, capitalism, free markets, entrepreneurism, being of service for other people. So for me, it's a way of seeing the world and my place in the world. And it's underlined by a foundation of gratitude for living in the greatest country that has ever existed on the face of the planet. And so many people miss that today.
You know, it's such a hard place to get to this mindset to have the gratefulness for where we're at and the relationship with money that you did. How did your upbringing and family dynamics influence your own relationship and mindset when it comes to money?
Yeah, I really had two great examples, very different, that helped me guide me in the way of the American dream. Well, my dad and I was born in Charleston, West Virginia, up in the hollers, where my family came from. And my dad and mom lived up in the hollers in a shack. My dad lived in a shack right next to the railroad. And literally, it was so cold in the winter that rats would try to get into their house, and they would take the top off of Instant Carnation milk cans and nail it to the bottom of the baseboard so that they couldn't get in. He had only one pair of shoes a year. They ate meat once a week on Sundays, usually chicken. Other than that was beans and potatoes. I mean, they were truly destitute poverty. His dad worked in the coal mines and worked in the chemical factories there. And my grandfather really didn't like the American dream. He pretty much felt like a victim his whole life. He felt like he was trapped inside of a world without opportunity. And even when they offered him a promotion at his factory, he turned it down because he said he didn't want to work and be the man. My dad, on the other hand, asked, how can I create freedom? How can I create fulfillment? How can I escape this? And by the time he was 10 years old, he was an entrepreneur 3 ways over. He got newspapers and sold them in the morning at 4:00. He then, after he ran on newspapers, he signed shoes for people. And then after that, he sold cloverine salve to coal miners for their hands when they came out of the coal mines. So he asked, why not live the American dream? And how do I create wealth and prosperity for others? My grandfather, on the other hand, asked, why am I doomed to suffer here in the hollers for the rest of my life? Two people raised in the same way, in the same place, but two different, amazingly different outcomes.
It's amazing when you think about that those I'm going to call them generational curses because they can be passed down to us. Those mindsets of there's never going to be enough, or to your grandfather's point, those in power are corrupt, and it's crazy when you think about what freedom is. Because to me, freedom isn't the freedom to do whatever I want. It's having the ability to be able to serve in the way that I want, the opportunities to continue to be able to build up my community. I mean, I remember growing up one of three children of a single mother with a misdiagnosed mental health condition, and our relationship with money was it's not available, but there will always be more of it. So like we would eat from our friends' dinner plates. We would find places to sleep. We ended up homeless from time to time, but finances was never the hindrance in our life, but it was also something that we were never going to necessarily be able to be financially well off.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Danny, because after we got out of the hollers, I mean, we were not, I mean, filthy rich by any stretch of the imagination. We lived in a little 1,200 square foot home, but we always had it. It wasn't the amount of wealth or prosperity; it was the way of viewing the world. My dad went to work in the army. He right out of high school too, also, like you, and he taught me how that the only way the American dream lives is when people fight for it and keep us free, and always to be grateful for their service. I mean, the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, not from religion, but freedom of religion, the freedom of the press, the freedom that we have to be creative and earn businesses and grow wealth, the freedom to own property and not have the government confiscate it, the freedom to have safety in your environment. I mean, these basic human principles that I believe cut through all of how human beings should be treated, and they have a desire for this. This idea of freedom is American dream is only possible through the brave men and women that fought for it and continue to fight for it today. So that was one of the things that he taught me. But we always had, even though we didn't have a ton of money when we weren't living in the shack by the railroad, but we had a sense of hope and a sense of love and a sense of creativity, a sense of optimism about the future, and a sense of hard work, and a sense that things were going to get better. And it was that screen more than anything else that eventually led to some substantial wealth and prosperity up in the middle class and even the higher. Um, but that's because my dad, when I was 10 years old, he gave me a copy of Think and Grow Rich. And he said, read this every year of your life. I said, okay, Dad. I always wanted to be just like him, so I did. But that was my first kind of breakthrough in seeing how money really could work and how you could create value for others.
That's really awesome. You use this word screen a lot, and you talk about the different screens in which we view the world in your book a lot. Could you further define what these screens are and the screens that you use to view money?
Yeah. So one of the things I talk about as a potential screen that many people have is what I call money demons. They are ways of looking at money and your relationship with money that destroy any ability to take power and joy of your life and your world. One of the things I talk about in the book is that money can't make you happy. Well, it's very interesting for a guy who helps people invest money. But I discovered that people with a $10 million portfolio weren't necessarily happier than people with $1 million or a $500,000 portfolio. And if you look around, you see people like Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and Howard Hughes and people with massive amount of fame and power. And their fame and power and money actually worked against them and tore them to pieces, destroyed their whole life. So I started to think, what is it? What is it that you could have that would actually make money empowering and not disempowering? And one thing I discovered was that people that had a purpose for their money and for their life that was greater than money itself, they lived longer, they were happier, they had better relationships, they had better health. Viktor Frankl wrote a book. He was a a member. He was a person in Germany in the death camps, and he watched his whole family get slaughtered. And he wrote how you could create a meaning in your life that gave you agency to create a more powerful life and be there for other people. So, Money Demons tells you that there's not enough money. It's hard to make. It's hard to keep. It's hard to invest. It's going to be a lot of suffering around it, and there's a lot of jealousy and victimhood around money demons. I don't have enough. I'm never going to have enough. I worked so hard, and no one really appreciates me. How am I ever going to get ahead? Those are all disempowering thoughts. So, shifting your relationship from a demon belief to a guardian belief. If I serve others and create wealth, I will get it for myself. If you want to create and experience the American dream, help other people experience their American dream. Money is an empowering tool that allows me to make the world a better place. These are things that don't come. When you wake up in the morning, your self-talk is normally not a cheerleader. It's going to be a great day. You're going to go out there and change lives. It's just like, oh no, I don't want to get up this morning and work out. I'm just going to hit the snooze. So, how do you get your brain to consistently ask the right questions and then create the screen that's going to have you have a powerful relationship with money instead of victimhood? I know that was a long answer, but that's a big part of the book is transforming your relationship to money.
It's definitely not a long answer. It's a much needed answer because we do need to transform that that mindset. I mean, there's a quote that is often misinterpreted or misheard or misremembered, but it's money is the root of all evil, and that's the incorrect quote. It's the love of money is the root of all evil because, like you said, money is a tool, and it's how are we using this tool? When you don't have much money. Maybe you are living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you're currently in debt. It's what are you doing with your money? How are you setting up your living arrangements? What are you spending things on? Really, looking internally to say, hey, how am I using this tool in my life? And is it holding me back from accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish? Because, I mean, part of the current American dream is that money is available to everyone that seeks it.
We were on an airplane just a couple of days ago, coming back from California to Scottsdale, and I have a new employee that's on the coaching team here, and I'm starting to build into him. I said, a lot of people think money is scarce, but the next time you're in an airplane, you're flying over a city. Uh, Look at all the wealth. Look at all the prosperity. Look at all the buildings, all the factories, all the jobs, all the houses, all the money is everywhere. It really, truly is. And the quality of life. If you went back 1,000 years and you were the king of, let's say, England, and you were the richest person in the world, you didn't have penicillin. You didn't have chocolate. You didn't have air conditioning. You didn't have heater. You didn't have artificial hips. You didn't have, I mean, there were so many, you couldn't go to a movie. You had no internet. That's obvious. The quality of life now, even if you're in the lower class, is higher than the quality of life that if you were the richest person in the planet 1,000 years ago. And that is a miracle. Free markets, capitalism, entrepreneurship has created a world of miracles. And I think a lot of times we forget to look at those. And sometimes, Danny, I think people, I kind of joke. I tell people my next book's going to be 10 things I learned from Uber drivers, because every time I get in an Uber, they're like, "Oh, I love America," and they're all immigrants, and I love America, and it's the most great country, and people that were born here don't understand it. Sometimes I think it's easier for immigrants to be more grateful for this amazing country than it is for people that were born into it. And I just want to wake everybody up to the fact that it is a great time to be alive in the greatest country in the world. And do we have problems? Obviously, we do. This isn't utopia. Utopia doesn't exist on this plane. I'm working towards getting to it in the next one. But as I always tell me, everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to go today. So that idea that you can make life better if you work hard enough for other people and you serve other people and you create value for other people. My dad always told me, no one owes you anything in life that you don't create value for other people first. And that is a key way of viewing the world, a screen, if you will, of how to create your American dream.
I love it. There's so many thoughts that are rattling around in my head, but I think one that would be particularly resonating with a lot of younger veterans or people that are 38 years old transitioning out because they just got done serving their 20 is so I remember growing up with not a lot of money, getting a 30-inch TV for Christmas in '96 was a huge deal for our family, and it was this amazing celebrated thing. And now people are walking around with 30-inch screens in their backpack on their laptops and stuff. It seems like, we've got a screen in every room, which is absolutely wild. But when I started making a difference in the military for my life and moving up in the enlisted ranks, I was making money like I had never experienced. And then, as I was sharing pre-show, my service came to an abrupt end, and I had no other choice but to get out. And I remember thinking, I'm about to go from $80,000 a year to nothing. I can't use any certifications that I have from the military to transition. And so I have to literally start over again or find some sort of entry level slash low middle management position in a career I know nothing about. So again, it was starting over again. But one of the things that I had sat down and I did is I made a list of my interests, and I said, okay, these are the career fields that I may move into, and what do people make on the outside of the military in these positions. And when I sat down and did the math, and I said, wow, if I started now, I can make more money by the time I'm 45 than I can if I stayed in and retired and collected a military pension. Um, and then that wealth would only grow, but it's going to take years of sacrifice. And during this time, I met my now wife, and I told her, hey, I'm getting out of the military. All this money that you see, all this wealth, this house, this car, it's all going to go away. And I'm about to be a poor college student living with roommates. And this is the life that we're going to have for a few years. Are you in?
That's
And
awesome.
and she said yes, but that mindset of I'm going to be able to make money. This isn't the end, and nobody owes me anything. But the Veterans Affairs did provide me a lot of resources. I mean, I
And
got
they
an
did owe you for sure.
exactly. Like, I mean, I got my undergrad and my master's. They helped me with my first jobs. They've been amazing. So I say all of that because we're talking about the scarcity mindset, right? Money is hard to obtain, and that leads to a lot of stress, and it leads to people, 22, 24, 26, 38 years old panicking when they get out of the military. They're afraid that they're exiting with a lot of stress and no plan. And you mentioned this scarcity mindset and how it affects people's ability to invest and build wealth and look forward. How do you feel like people can begin to shift their own mindset?
Wow, I love that story you just told. That was great. One of the things I tell people, and it's indicative in your story, is I tell people, especially young people, don't be afraid to start at the bottom. Everybody wants to start at the top. Everybody wants to start as the CEO and the vice president and walk in and make $500,000 a year and all this stuff. And then you look on Instagram and, open an Amazon trading account and make $1 million a year, 10 minutes a day. And, I think there's a lot of misnomers about how wealth is created. But I watched my dad as an entrepreneur. One thing that became really clear, even if I had to start over at 61, if I went to work in somebody's business and took the lowest paying job, or even worked for free. I remember when it would snow in Cincinnati, all the other kids would go sleigh riding. My dad would hand me, before he went to work, he'd hand me a shovel. I said, "What's this? I'm going to go sleigh riding." He said, "No, you're going to go to the houses along the street and you're going to do their yard, going to do their walkway and their driveway." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to make a lot of money." He said, "Well, some people will pay you money, some people won't, but then you do it anyway." And some people would pay, and some people would give cookies and hot chocolate, and some people didn't have any money at all. But he said, you be of service to people. So if you go to work at a company, and especially if it's an entrepreneurial company, and you do a good job and you crush it in what you're doing, and stay curious and you ask for more responsibility, those entrepreneurs and the people that own that job will give it to you. And you'll continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. Heck, you could even be running the company. Or you could start as an entrepreneur. It's never been so easy. In 1991, I started up with a yellow pad, an overhead projector, and $30,000 in debt. And the company today has $11 billion of assets under management. And I was 27-year-old, punk kid. What did I know? And I was told by many people, it's never going to work. You're never going to make it. Kids your age have, a million. There's a million of them out there with ideas. And very few of them make it. So look, you can be an entrepreneur. You can go to work for an entrepreneurial company. You want to look for a company that shares the same values and purpose in life that you do, that has a culture that is entrepreneurial in nature and innovative and creative. There's so many ways to create wealth today that didn't exist, heck, even 10, 20 years ago.
It's so true. I get amazed when I see young people being financially successful, and I pray that they're able to continue to build on that instead of fizzle out. Unfortunately, for a lot of young people, and I know that you went through this experience. A lot of the times we feel like we're doing it on our own, but I came to discover over many years and many downfalls that faith is incredibly important in this journey. And I would love for you to have an opportunity to share your faith journey and how it shaped your view of finances, success, and your personal challenges.
Sure. Oh boy, I was stubborn. I it took a lot. Well, I was an atheist my whole life, and even when I went to college at Miami University in Ohio, I got a degree in finance and accounting, with probably a minor in hey, there is no God. I mean, I took courses on philosophy and different classes about religion, and but I was a hardcore atheist and thought only weak people believed in God. And but I had some buddies that were Christians, and they kept saying, "No, you're a Christian. You're a Christian." I would just stop saying that. I am not. Don't say that. And they said, "No, we know your heart. We know your heart." So then I went through divorce, and when I went through divorce, I felt like a failure. I felt like I was letting my family down, meaning my kids. I felt like what's going to happen with my company. I was in my 30s, and I'm like, this is something I had never expected. I was starting to be depressed, stress, anxiety. I thought, wow, this is really dark. And so I was talking to a buddy, and I had moved out in an apartment complex, and he said, "Well, look at those four walls." And he said, "That's you trying to run your own life." He's like, "Are you ready?" I said, "Ready for what?" And he said, "Ready to admit there's a God and you're not him?" And all the doubt, all the classes, all the contemplate, I was just humble, and I just hit my knees, and I was just like, "Yeah, man, let's pray for me because I need it." And so I went from a world of no God to a world of God, being a Christian, and it changed everything. Made it through the divorce, recovery, um, recovered from the depression. Eventually, I met my wife, Melissa, and we got married with three cords are not easily broken. And the family helped heal the families. She had three kids. I had three kids. We both said, "That's it. Six is enough." A couple years later, she said, "I love you so much. I can't imagine not having kids with you." And I said, "I can." And she won out though, and we had two more, Gage and Liam, and they're 12 and 9. And so it's changed everything. I mean, just everything. Um, it's an amazing screen to have, having a God and knowing that you're not him.
It's absolutely true. To not be the master of your own life can seem like the most terrifying thing. And people, I mean, I've had people in the comments section tell me how weak I am because I depend upon my faith to be able to live life. They're just like, "Oh, well, you're doing it wrong." And I'm just like, "No, like what you don't understand is if I lost everything today again, because I lost it all when I was 29 years old, um, without faith, and it was the hardest thing to go through. I know now if I lost it all again, the foundation that I would still hold on to is that faith. I'm not worried about losing the house. I'm not worried about losing the job. I'm not worried about losing the things that come along with life. I'm incredibly grateful for how much more I have now because I have a faith. But if I ever lost my faith, that would probably be the death of me.
Yeah. Well, faith is the way of strength. Everybody has faith in something. It's just, what are you going to choose to put your faith in? I mean, people get in an airplane, they're putting faith in science. you know, you you take, you when you go to the doctor, you're putting faith in modern medicine. And faith is the way of strength. Faith in God and faith in a higher power. I think is the ultimate strength that I've seen. And it makes everything else work, and nothing tends to work without it.
It really does. What I've found, that without faith, I come to rely on myself a lot, or I come to rely on my paycheck a lot. I come to rely on the externals a lot more, even when I start taking the reins. But that rarely ever leads to happiness. Like, more money for me has never correlated directly to more happiness. It's not until I start giving things away. I mean, 3 years ago, we sold our house here in Hawaii to start this podcast for a deeper purpose, because we were just like, we're making plenty of money right now, and I want to do something big and impactful with it while we still have an opportunity. And so,
Right.
from your perspective, what was the key to finding fulfillment beyond wealth, and how can you help somebody identify a purpose in their life?
Yeah. So the first thing is, as you said, to first identify money can't make you happy. That's number one, because the default position is just trying to work. And people work 30, 40, 50 years to make money, more than they actually need. So one, you have to ask yourself, if you're thinking about it, why am I working so hard to create more wealth and prosperity than I actually truly need? Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's something to think about. The second thing is, okay, if it doesn't make me happy, why doesn't it make me happy? And I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And there's this thing that I call in the book the destructive cycle of wealth. We have survivalship bias. We are hardwired to survive. So we want things. Sometimes things that are just basic: food and clothing and warmth and a place to live, shelter. All necessary for life. But then we want more than that. We want a nicer car. We want a Ferrari, or we want a Tesla, or we want a nicer house, or we want a nicer pair of golf clubs. We go out and get them. And Toyota used to have a commercial where you say, "Oh, what a feeling!" If I bought the Toyota. And it works for a little bit. Temporarily, when you buy that new car, you're like, wow, I love this. It's a great car. I'm never going to get French fries in this car. I'm going to keep this car forever. I'll never want another car. And then you drive it and you enjoy it, but then eventually you're looking around and there's different cars. There's better cars. There's bigger. You move into a house and you're like, man, I love this house. There's not a thing wrong with this house. But then you're in the house a year or two and you're like, you know what? I hate these cabinets in this kitchen. We have got to rip out these cabinets and redo the kitchen. And so you always want the next thing. I want a faster computer. I want a faster iPhone. I want new technology. That'll make me happy. Yeah, for a while. It'll feel like happiness. It'll feel like adrenaline. But then when you start to compare it to everybody else, it just falls completely flat. There's always a bigger boat. There's always a nicer car. There's always a bigger, better, smarter cell phone coming down the line. And it can't fill that hole inside. So first you realize that money is not going to do it. No matter what, no matter how much, money's not going to do it. Then the second thing is, okay, well, I need a purpose for my life. So a big part of my purpose is helping other people recreate and live the American dream and live an extraordinary life. How to spend their time, energy, and money to live an extraordinary life, and then focus on that. Now I got to get what do I see in my life that's out of line with that, and I got to eliminate that or fill the gap. And then what's in alignment with that, and what new projects and new strategies and things I could take on to further my purpose. But it all starts with purpose. I have to have a purpose greater than life itself. And if you think about anybody that's ever created anything amazing in the world, whether it's Martin Luther King, whether it's Walt Disney, whether it's the Wright brothers, whether it's John F. Kennedy getting people to the moon, men to the moon at the time, these are people with extremely dedicated purpose in their life. And that's what creates fulfillment. That's what creates freedom. That's what creates the sense of love and connection with other people, having a purpose, and then refining that purpose over a lifetime.
There's so much opportunity, and often people look at purpose as a solo individual. But you being a married man, and also like so many people in our world have gone through a divorce where, hey, the purpose that we thought we were living, we actually weren't, and now we're going different paths. I know for me to build my purpose post divorce and heading into a new relationship took a lot of work, a lot of communication, because it's not just, oh, what's Danny's purpose? It's what's the Mayberry's purpose? What are we moving towards again? Uh, because this isn't happening in a silo, and a lot of that comes down to a lot of unspoken things, money demons that we have from our past that we never addressed. Personal personal malice or injuries, moral injuries that we've suffered in past relationships. How did you manage to talk about, you know, these money demons with your spouse and help develop a purpose, especially following such a devastating divorce?
Yeah, we both were healing, trying to heal anyway. When we found each other, and the first thing we did was we committed to therapy together and counseling, and did a lot of counseling for a number of years, working through all of our individual stuff, working through the family stuff. When you bring six kids together from two different marriages, there is lots of conflict, a lot of chaos, a lot of jealousy, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of hurt feelings from the past relationships and the dealing with the spouses, the ex spouses. Um, I think the therapy was key. The other thing that was key is aligning our purposes, and that's another great thing about purpose. When you are really super clear about your purpose, you're going to attract people that are simpatico, synergistic with your purpose, and you're going to repel people, kind of like a magnet. They're like one end of the magnet attracts, the other one repels, and it will repel people who don't have a similar purpose. And you won't even have to think about it; they just won't want to have anything to do with what you're up to in life. So it's a great way to kind of work through relationships and attract those people that really you want in your life, and at the same time help you distance yourself and protect yourself, have healthy boundaries from people that aren't going to really be productive in your life.
I love that mindset. It reminds me of an illustration that I took, modified, and made my own when talking to people about relationships. I said, what was given to me was, hey, we're picture a ship, and picture that you were a ship. If a ship is just sitting in the water with no direction, and its motor's not going or its sails aren't up, it's just going to be thrashed about by the waves, spinning in circles, going nowhere. And it can lead to devastating effects. It can lead to crashes and sinking and all sorts of stuff. I was like, but once we set our sails in a direction, and we set the navigation towards a particular horizon, towards a particular waypoint, we start moving, and you can start moving in that direction, and that's our purpose that we're moving towards, is this horizon on the end. And when you're looking for a partner and other relationships to come along, it should be people that already know how to sail their own ship and what way they're going. And oftentimes our lives are going to intersect, and a good partner is somebody that is sailing to the same waypoint as you. And some of those relationships come and go because it's just a passerby. But my wife and I, we've always set our horizon on this purpose of helping other people and spreading a good word. And I know that you have done the same thing with your business. You're helping people invest. It's something that you've studied your entire life. It's something that you've learned through trial, error, experience, books, academia, and you have this wealth of knowledge to help people achieve their purpose. And so you do this through Invested. And I just would like to know, how can people get started in investing? Because for a lot of people, myself included, at one point in life, it's felt more like gambling, or like, oh, I don't know what my 401k is going to do. It's just going to do its thing, and I'm going to trust that the system works.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people feel that way. As a matter of fact, a recent survey showed that especially younger males have put more money into their DraftKings app than they do into their investing. I mean, it's really become endemic in our society, and it's an intuition, because if you look at the science, stock picking, market timing, and track record investing, which is what the brokerage community promotes, and what the news programs promote, this idea that somehow you can predict the future, therefore you can pick out the best stocks, or you can predict when to get in and out of the market. These are really dangerous methodologies of gambling. And so first you have to, and it takes a little bit of, it really takes a little bit of commitment and education. There's a lot of things people want quick hacks, life hacks into. There really, when it comes to investing, is no easy life hack around investing. It takes some thought, some consideration, some study. You want to make sure you're studying the right stuff, that it's from academia. But first thing, you make a commitment to stop gambling. I'm not going to stock pick. I'm not going to market time. I'm not going to track record invest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use asset classes that are diversified into different sectors of the market. So instead of buying, if I'm going to buy large company stocks, instead of trying to pick the best 10, I'm going to own all 500 in the S&P 500. If I'm going to own small company stocks, I'm not going to try to pick the best 20. I'm going to own an ETF or an index fund or some kind of a strategy where I have all 2,000, and I'm going to reduce the cost of my portfolio. And then the hardest thing of all to do, once you create that model, and I vastly simplified it, but once I create my model, then I want to rebalance it. And that's where the real problem comes in. Because let's say you made a simple, very, very simple portfolio, half S&P 500 and half short-term fixed income. And then 2008 and 2009 come along and the S&P crashes 50%. Tech stocks during 2000 crashed 75%. And that's what everybody's loaded up on today. Everybody's loaded up on large growth stocks and tech stocks, which are leading the S&P right now. And they've forgotten the periods of time where you lose half of all your wealth overnight. But to the extent that markets are volatile, then you have to force yourself, if you have a 50-50 mix, then I have to force myself to sell enough fixed income to put my portfolio back to 50-50. While everybody else is screaming, sell, 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 panic, 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 and everyone around you saying the exact same thing, which we call herding bias. Herding's great for zebra, bad for investors. And it's even if you know the discipline of a thing, well, you know this, even though you might know, I could, for my wife is a fitness trainer, and she could write a plan for you over 90 days, what your workout should be, what you should eat. You'll be back to your high school playing weight, right? But the problem is you got to actually do what it says in the plan.
It's one of the hardest things to do.
It's so hard. Implementation is treacherous, because cheesecake is good.
So good.
And my bench food's pizza. Pizza, and I love Italian. So just knowing what to do doesn't mean you do it. And so that's a reason to have a good coach, someone to guide you through the process, that's been doing it for 30, 40 years, that's proven that they don't panic. And the other problem is panic, but then there's chasing too. Look how many people chase Bitcoin, and we had cryptocurrency, Tom Brady saying, I'm in, and then all these Steph Curry and all these people promoting it. And they even called it the crypto bowl, because so many, Matthew Damon saying, fortune favors the brave. I mean, just garbage. And so many people lost trillions of dollars doing it. Same thing with gold. Same with options and commodities. Over the last 15 years, a lot of people brag on options and commodities. Options and commodities over the last 15 years have lost 1% over the whole period of time. You made nothing. So it's easy to get trapped in speculating and gambling and doing what everybody else is doing. It's very, very hard to know the principles, but it's even harder to follow them without a great coach. So part of my advice to people would be, Find a really great coach that's done it for 50 years, and then help get them to help coach you and train you how to do it, because the stakes are high if you make a mistake.
It's so true, and I love that you brought up hire a coach with some experience, because you're right. Like, one of the things that appeals, I think, to people about DraftKings, and I've never been much for gambling. Like, I've sat down to play poker a few times, but that's always that's always for social purpose and with money that, like, I've already counted as lost. This face does not hold a good poker face. You can ask anybody. My emotion is right here. but but no, like, this whole easy money earned is also easy money lost. Fast money gained is fast money lost, and so many people have a FOMO. And I'm going to liken this more so to mental health too, because conventional wisdom teaches you, kind of along the lines of the Stoics, is life is going to get hard. You still have to do what is right, even when it's hard. And you have to remain true to who you are, because if you're constantly flipping and turning with the tides, you are going to drown or you are going to sink. It's not going to be in your benefit to do the latest trend. It's why we have such high levels of divorce, because people forget the foundations. They didn't surround themselves with healthy individuals. And financial health is so tied into everything that we are, because of, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It provides for our food, it provides for our housing, it provides for our security. Um, what what would you tell somebody that, say, my situation, I'm about to take go from $80,000 a year to maybe 10? Like, how can I look at that and develop a little resilience around the way that I'm viewing money, going, hey, I'm about to have nothing, or I've always had nothing, but I'm being told on this podcast to develop some resilience and some fortitude, because things are going to get hard.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a great question.
Put you on the spot.
So yeah, no, it's a great question. First of all, you want to surround yourself and find yourself around as many people as you can who went through the same thing. You want to find people that had nothing. When I started my company, my father and my uncle had been in a company. I had been involved on the fringes of a real estate company, because this was when the real estate crash was, massive real estate crash. And we lost employees. We lost tons of revenue. That's why my first $30,000 into my company was just some credit cards, because I had no money. So you want to surround yourself with people who have gone from nothing, and who have made it. And then you want to study their mindsets, and you want to ask for their help. Hey, how'd you do it? What was it like? What were your obstacles? Who did you have to fight? How did you? And it will be a fight. I'm always telling our people, look, we are in a fight here. This is called capitalism. People are out to destroy your business model. Every 2 to 3 years, you have to evolve and make your own business model obsolete. Otherwise, somebody else is going to do it to you. And that's okay, because that's how free markets work. And so you got to surround yourself. I would also, my dad taught me this one really early on. He said, you can learn anything you want to from a book. I said, well, that doesn't seem possible. If you can learn it, then why don't make people just get the book and like Think and Grow Rich? He gave me that book. I'm like, all I got to do is read this book and get rich. He's like, well, the problem is, number one, most people won't read it. Number two, most people, as they do read it, are going, yeah, but this, or yeah, but that. And, I don't want to do this. And so they're just destroying the strategies with the yeah, buts as they're going through. And the reality is, most people simply won't do what's in the book. They just won't do it. Most people won't read it, and most people won't do what it says. So so for me, it's surround myself with the best people. When I started this company, I said, look, I was 27 years old. I knew there was a Nobel Prize winner. His name was Eugene Fama, and also Harry Markowitz. And I said, look, I'm going to open this company. I got to be around the best people in the world that study markets and the economy and how stock markets work. And I got to be associated with those people. So I sought those people out, and said, I know I'm young, I'm 27 years old, but I need your help. And I want to create this thing for people to help them invest and make their life better. And And so you want to have great friendships, and you want to have great people and great mentors around you. Um, and when you get worn down, and you will, when you get tired, you will. Then you go to the big guy upstairs, and then you ask for his help and support through the whole thing, and you put a great team together.
I love that. We all need a great team, and I know for veterans and many members within the military service as well as first responders, there are so many resources available to all of us because of individuals like you that make that possible. Uh, and I know, if we think about the financial history of what's talked about in our textbooks and on the media, is the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, none greater than the Great Depression, and then in 2008 with the housing market crash. We know that financial distress uh, leads to a variety of mental health conditions that can end and often do end in increased suicide rates. And so for anybody that is currently suffering from suicidal ideations, Mark, what message of hope would you have for somebody that is figuratively or literally going through their mental battles?
Yeah, well, I went through a bout of depression. Through that bout of depression, the two things were critical. One was just getting a great therapist. I mean, don't be afraid to get help and reach out and talk about your feelings and talk about what you're going through. That's what I've experienced personally. I had a great psychiatrist, because sometimes medicine does have to be involved. Um, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist. Those things have helped me. Faith in your higher power, and if it's really super dark like that, a support group, people that have gone through the same things or going through the same things. And then my dad would always say, when everything's uncertain, anything is possible. Sometimes for me, I have to go through really dark times and go through that pain and go through that suffering to come out on the other side and see something amazing. My life right now, if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have my wife that I love dearly, and I wouldn't have, the kids that I have. Uh, when we went through that really terrible financial period, where we had to close our company, our old company, that was in 1991. That's when I founded this company. So amazing things can open up, new opportunities can be incredible. Um, but there are people out there that have the capacity to love you, that have gone through the same things you're going through. And if you're, from my own personal standpoint, if you're a veteran or in the military, thank God for you. Thank God for what you do. Thank God for your strength and courage. You've helped so many people. So if no one tells you today, we're making this on Veterans Day. If no one else tells you, I mean, I'm grateful for you. There are people that love you and care for you and are so grateful for what you've done for their families. My kids get to lay down their head tonight, and, without fear, because of the sacrifice that you did keeping our country free. It's a great honor to even be on your podcast.
Well, Mark, thank you for that message, and thank you for promoting the American dream, especially through these hard times. You have such a unique perspective on it, and your family has lived the gamut of it just over 3 generations. Where can people find and connect with you or your books and your programs?
Yeah. So to get the book, you can go on Amazon, Amazon, obviously.com, Experiencing the American Dream. You can grab one there. We have a 2-day workshop, The American Dream Experience, based on the concepts and ideas of the book. I mean, the book's awesome. And if you read that and you're like, man, I really want to go deeper into this thing, we have a free 2-day workshop. That's
Fantastic
right.
book.
We have a two free day workshop. We can do it virtually. We also do it here in Scottsdale live. We have a great training center here, to learn even more about it. And I think we're in an amazing position to strengthen that American dream, and open it up for more people. So I'm very optimistic for the future.
Well, I truly appreciate that. And I really love the time that we've got to connect and talk here on the 1 Mile, One Veteran podcast, Mark.
Thanks, Danny. It was really a pleasure to be with you today.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, remember you can catch the 1 Mile, 1 Veteran podcast on Reese Across America Radio, available for you on platforms like iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and the TuneIn app.